All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is the ability to program yourself. All right. Now, if you are a communicator, the greatest thing that you could do is to begin to self-program you in a way that is going to bring you the results that you are looking for. With that comes the mindset that we're all programmed and we're all running scripts, internal dialogue. And so knowing that is going to benefit us greatly inside of communication, because the people that we are talking to have been previously programmed and they are running a script. And you have been programmed and you are running a script. When I say script, I'm talking about an internal dialogue in a belief system that you have decided to attach yourself to. And so understanding the psychology behind this is going to cause you to be really, really effective. All right? So what you repeatedly tell yourself with emotion becomes your default beliefs. And your beliefs become the tone and the posture and the tonality and your form of communication. It is all connected to an inner program. So in communication terms, your inner script becomes your outer script. And that is, if you want to have greater impact outside, then you're going to have greater impact on the inside. Because what you are telling yourself about yourself and about your message or about your product and all these different things, these internalized fears and these scripts that are running behind the scenes, there is no way for those not to affect you and to come out inside of your energy in your communication, okay? Your message will get clearer. Your presence will get more distinct if you understand the principles that I am giving you today. All right, let's lay a foundation first so we can grab a hold of this. And this is a life philosophy that says that people have been programmed. Now, I haven't found any evidence that would destroy that life philosophy. Everything around me confirms programming. All right, and that is from the cradle to the grave. There is forces and systems and influence and all these different things trying to program us in some way or fashion, right? I'm doing a podcast that is communicating beliefs and influence that if you accept and align yourself with the beliefs that I am presenting, you will find yourself in some sort of worldview and a life philosophy that has been programmed. So I am here doing a program for you. Now, the reality is that most people have been programmed to fail, and that's the purpose for our existence as communicators, as influencers, as leaders, because we know that people have been programmed to fail, and that's the reason why they're not seeing results inside of their life, all right, is because they have been programmed to fail. Now, I don't think a lot of people do it intentionally, though I do think there is a little bit of intentionality behind some of this stuff. But one of the first things that we're programmed to fail is in our education. And that inside of education as we know it, that it's not setting people up to thrive. Now, thrive in the sense of becoming entrepreneurial or creating wealth or transcending the kind of basic level living. No, it is created to create a system of worker bees, right? It's not created to transcend the little box. No, it's created for conformity. So you could become a worker bee, and so you can just be kind of a cog in the wheel, right? That's what it's created for. And so education itself has programmed people to fail. Now, the reason why this is important is because you've had your own education that has probably programmed you to fail in some way or fashion, and that you have to consciously address those within yourself. Because if you can begin to break apart your own education and how that has programmed you to fail, then you can begin to help others inside of your communication and help them see how their education has programmed them to fail. It's a very interesting phenomenon. Like the more educated people get, the more and more they lean to a determinism, and that is a very victim sort of conclusion to things, right? It's very, very, very sad. So by education, people have been programmed to fail. By religion, people have been programmed to fail. All right, most religion is to get you inside of fear-based insecurities. They propagate the problem so they can be the solution, and on the cycle continues. Religion in general does not produce powerful, empowered people. In fact, most religion is a box to keep you small. That's just the truth of it. All right. So even in religion, where there is a facade of growth and development, it's not the case at all. It's something far different. Now, in each sector of these programs, the goal inside of those programs is to keep you small. This is why I have the core belief that you and me, we have been programmed to fail. All right. And it doesn't matter whether somebody is on a weight loss journey and they're plateauing and they're not getting the results they're looking for. They've been programmed to fail. And that is that there is knowledge, skills, and resources that they do not have. And there are things that they are doing that they absolutely should not do. And that has come through programming. Bottom line. Now, whether you're a good marketer and you show up on social media well or not has to do with the programming and your marketing philosophy. And people show up initially inside of marketing with a program to fail. And that is they're constantly doing things that don't actually get them the results that they're looking for. But somebody has programmed them to do these things, right? They're programmed to fail. And so understanding that your communication is from that viewpoint that the people that I'm talking to in some way or fashion have been programmed to fail. And I'm here to help them with the defrag or the reprogramming or the better content that is going to get them to take results in the direction that is actually going to produce them success and results. Now think of pop culture for a little bit. If you don't think we've been programmed to fail, just look at pop culture and all the different messages and the different things that come from pop culture, right? And not to get too deep into this, but I do want to throw something out there. There is a reason why these songs are so catchy and they pull you in with like a hook, and then the message that they deliver is a detrimental message, and it gets stuck in people's brains. And when it gets stuck in people's brains, they rehearse the line or the narrative that is being presented, and there is some sort of attachment to it. And then all of a sudden they have a programmable system. There's nothing more programmable than music, right? This is why garbage in, garbage out is so important, because the beliefs that you solidify, they come through this process. And I'm going to explain thoroughly what the process is so you can understand how it's been acted upon you, and then how you can help other people along in the process to change and transformation. All right. Music has been defining culture and programming culture for a long time, right? I still got these songs from gangster rap, Eazy-E, from when I was a little kid, from rehearsing these lines over and over. And they were the most degrading things that you can ever say about women and about yourself. But here I am, as a 44-year-old man, still have a script running from childhood that I picked up because it was catchy and I rehearsed it and it became a part of my memory and who I am. All right. Now, the next is conditioning, and that is people, based upon their environment, they picked up certain belief systems. If they were raised in poverty, on the other side of the tracks, where fitness and nutrition wasn't promoted, or whatever it is, you can trace back and look at conditioning, which is programming. All right. And then lastly, we have the television. Now, there's a reason why they call it television. That is, they're telling you a vision. The vision that they're telling you is their vision. It's not your vision. Now, part of proactivity and self-programming is for you to find out what your vision is and to begin to tell yourself that vision so you can reprogram yourself for success. All right. If we all are just circling around the vision that they're telling us, then we are going to get the outcomes and the results that they want us to get. And so that's really why it's really important is what am I feeding on and what it is that I'm allowing to myself to align with as far as belief systems. Right? They didn't call it a TV program for nothing. A lot of these things are pushing a paradigm and a belief system that they want you to adopt. That's why it's called programming. All right. Now we have the conscious versus the unconscious. And we know what this means. The conscious things are the things that we are aware of. The unconscious or subconscious things are the things that we're not particularly aware of. And a lot of those things have been programmed by the conditioning of all the things that I said, by education, religion, pop culture, and the way that you grew up, and the television and the programming and the things that you have consumed have created a subconscious script. Now, the best thing that we can have inside of our life is have the subconscious become conscious. Because when we do that, then we're able to shift and to transition. So when you are speaking with influence and authority, you are bringing things that are hidden or underneath. You're bringing those things to the surface so people can produce change and transformation. Now, this often happens in the form of questions. There's nothing greater than to reveal a programming than a question, and a question that gets answered on the fly. That is, that the person really doesn't have much thought to it. They don't go into self-protection mode of how they're going to protect themselves and how they're going to pose or keep the image safe. Like the ones that are on the fly that get asked and then get repeated with quickness and speed, these are the subconscious programmings that are coming to the surface. It'd benefit greatly to begin to listen to those things, okay? Now, let me lay out the psychology of why this is effective for you as a communicator. And this is going to get to the brass tacks of everything, okay? And that is the way programming happens. And I know this thoroughly because, I've done a lot of inner work in healing some of the things of my childhood as far as coming from, parents that were schizophrenic and addicted to drugs. My mother was a prostitute. And we were on welfare and we got taken away by the government. And so really, really traumatic experiences. I had to learn some skills and I had to get a little bit of understanding of why it is that I'm doing what I'm doing and how can I kind of defrag from this and to reprogram myself. And so what I discovered in this journey is that there was a lot of things that I picked up during that time. And I picked them up because of this process that I'm going to lay out to you, okay? And that is we heard a thing. Programming starts with hearing a thing. Now, we don't have to particularly hear it from another person. We can hear ourselves say it or we can think it, but it all starts with kind of the receptivity of hearing something, hearing a thing. And that is where then we go into kind of a knowledge, knowing a thing or an experiencing a thing. So you're hearing something and then you are experiencing something. And then when you experience something, your mind goes into seeing it. That is, your imagination kind of grabs a hold of the hearing and the experience and it begins to kind of see it or picture it as reality. All right. So now you have a hearing, you have an experience, and then you have a seeing, which is kind of a mental picture of, you just painted it real quick in your mind of whatever it is that you're experiencing, right? And then you say it. Now, this often comes out in the form of saying it to yourself repeatedly over and over, and or saying it verbally to another person during the experience. right? And this leads to feeling it. And that is you feel from the experience and all of this, it just sinks down deep and you begin to experience the emotion that is connected to all of the above things that I mentioned. All right. So you're feeling it and then you're rehearsing it. Rehearsing it is the playing it over and over again, right? The way things like sink down into belief system is that the ruts that it has through repetition, that is the rehearsing, the repeatedly telling yourself this thing over and over. And then after that, of course, your behavior begins to follow in line with the belief that has been established. Okay. Now, this is why somebody who has experienced trauma has things written upon their heart or subconscious for this talk. This is the reason why they are so concreted inside of their reality. Is because they had an experience and it created this mental picture and they attach significance to that experience, and that is that experience communicated something to them. I'm a piece of crap. I'm a loser. I'm not worth it. Like all of these different statements that are correlated to that. And that's the narrative and the script that is running around. And so what does the person feel? The person feels sad, depressed, angry, frustrated, alone, and then it rehearses and then it acts out of behavior. So since we know that this is the way like belief gets formed, then we understand that this can be used either way. Now, the same thing that could happen in a detrimental manner is the same thing that could happen in a positive manner. In fact, I believe that God uses the same way to write things upon our heart. And that is, we hear something that is positive and beneficial, and we begin to experience or to have the sense of knowing that's attached to it. We create this mental picture of it and see it and say it, and it begins to align with our emotions to where we begin to feel the reality of it. And then we start rehearsing that truth and then we start acting it out. God does the same process for transformation. So it's important for us to, when we are communicating, know the psychology behind it. And can I get somebody to hear this truth? Can I get somebody to experience this truth? Can I paint a mental picture for them to see this truth? Can I have them repeat back to me the truth so they can say it? And can I communicate in a way that would have them feel what it is that I'm talking about? All right? This is the only way that leads to practical action. All right? And since we know this truth, we have to be proactive in this process with ourselves. And that is, if we want to be effective, we're going to have to program ourselves to be effective. All right? We are programmed to fail. And so we have to program ourselves for success. People are going to fail at podcasting, course creation, anything that is creator related until they take up this habit of, I am going to consciously create the thing that I have hoped for. And that is the expectation that I see in the future. I'm going to consciously create that. And that means I'm going to have to program myself. So when it comes to communication, is your life vision, that is all programmable. Your daily habits, that's all programmable. Everything that you want to achieve with your communication, with your influence, with your book, with your course, podcast, it's all programmable on your side. Okay. And that is, you're going to have to believe it. You're going to have to rehearse it. You're going to have to meditate upon it. You're going to have to see it, envision it for you to take the actions that are necessary to bring it about. The way this looks like is I listen to my life vision every day. I've got it written out. I listen to it every single morning. Now, inside of this is one thing that my college professor taught me, and it like saved my life as far as testing, because I was absolutely terrible at testing. And that is, I could do all the work, I could even write the material that needed to be written, but I couldn't really pass a test to save my life. And so what he taught me was that late at night and early in the morning, so when you are going to bed or when you're waking up, you're in a state called alpha state. And that is your subconscious is highly suggestible during that state, right? In fact, this is why we're so programmable when we're young, because we actually start out in a very alpha state in our development. And that is our brain is a sponge and it's just picking up all of this different stuff. And to say that there is no filter during that time and that there is no guardian, there is no watchman of what is coming in, like all these different things, right? We are in a alpha state for a prolonged period of time inside of our development. And that is, we have picked up all of this stuff. So reprogramming happens the same way. So in an alpha state, before you go to bed or when you first wake up, for a short period of time, your retention rate is highly, highly strong. Okay. And so during that time, you need to convince yourself or to tell yourself the truth that you are most looking to embody. Okay. I have one running for my business, my life vision, what do I want to achieve inside of my body, and how I want to show up relationally inside of my life. It's all there for me first thing in the morning. So I'm running my scripts and I'm programming myself. All right. And then another thing that I do, because I understand how effective music is, that I create my own music with my script, not the world script, not what they want me to chant, what they want me to say, what I want to say, what I want to program myself with. And there's all kinds of apps out there that would help you create your own music. I use suno.com. And the things that, like my life vision, all these different things, have turned these things into songs that when I'm at the gym, I got them like the pumped up, man, just like pumped up gym music. And as I'm at the gym, I'm rehearsing the positive beliefs that I want to make sure that I am programming and instilling inside of my life. And I'm hearing them in repetition over and over, and I'm saying them over and over. And like the gym is amazing. So if you work out really hard, there's a point at the end there where like all of your endorphins and your pleasure responses are going off like crazy. And that is like the feeling aspect of programming. And that is like you're in this very emotional state and you have this music, and the music is rehearsing your life vision and it's programmable. And then you're having these endorphins and these pleasure responses go off. And all of a sudden, once again, you are programming yourself even more. One of the greatest things I think of failure is people who fail to program, right? Now, if you are a Christian, you know that the Bible literally says that faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. And that is, we hear it, we know it and experience it, we see it as we're reading it on the page, we repeat it back to ourselves in a form of meditation until our emotional response gets attached to it, and we rehearse it. We execute and carry out the word. This is how you embody principles. This is how you live out the word, right? So this is how you're going to live it out. And this is how you're going to communicate in a way that helps other people live out whatever the truth is that you want to get them to receive. All right. So let me tell you why this all matters. Is that your podcast is going to be built on reps. And that is, you're going to speak again and again and week after week. And you're probably going to say the same things. I say the same things a lot. I'm not too worried about it. Repetition is training something every single time, somebody hears a thing. So I'm not too worried about repetition. But the thing that you say over and over again is the thing that gets concreted in reality. In fact, a lot of good communication things that are out there is define your points, rehearse or reiterate that point periodically throughout the presentation, right? So you acknowledge the point, and throughout the process, you bring them right back around to the point, and then you go on, and then you bring them right back around to the point, and then you go on, you bring them right back to the point, and by the end of the communication, you have communicated the point at least 5 to 7 times. Now, I firmly believe that when you feel like you're reaching the point of, I can't possibly say this again, that's probably barely the initial breakthrough for most people. This is why every week I'm saying something about start a podcast, start a podcast, start a podcast. How many times do people need to hear start a podcast before they start a podcast? I don't know. Some people need it like 52 times. That means once a week. It's going to take a year for me to reach that person, right? So repetition. Say the same thing over and over and over again. All right? And don't be afraid to do that. All right, so let's dive into a couple of principles here. Principle number 1 is that there is within you a program, and that is a script that you're running, and that script is very disempowering. And it's going to show up in your form of communication. And whether we like to admit it or not, that every communicator has a insecurity and fear. Man, I already laid this out, right? We're born into this world of fear, and we're shaped by fear and insecurity, right? Insecurity is the model default mechanism of humanity, right? We're all striving to be secure in some way or fashion, and we're operating out of fear in some way, right? And so that is, everybody has a script. They have something that is believed at a heart level that is causing them to not be as effective, not be as high status, right? I'm not worthy to be heard. I'm not enough. I'm not really a good speaker. I hope this is making sense to you guys. I hear that a lot. I hope this is making sense. Sometimes I catch myself doing it. Well, I'm not really an expert, but people I'm not going to really care what it is that I'm saying. So I don't know what your leak is, but if you're holding on and you're rehearsing something, it's going to show up inside of your energy. And so the best way to combat that is to see it and to recognize it. Okay? So what this looks like is maybe you're about to record an episode and you're about to teach a simple process, and you open your notes and the script starts running. I can't teach this. I haven't fully integrated it myself. People probably already know this. This is so elementary that I don't even think I should communicate this. Now that thought seems harmless. So what people do is they kind of sit with it and they ruminate with it. And then they wonder why when they show up and they hit record, they sound like they're groveling in some way, or I apologize that I missed last week, or you start adding disclaimers to whatever truth that you're presenting, or you say words that are like kind of and maybe and all of this different stuff, and you end the episode without really clear communication, and it's because of the script that was running. It's all because of the script. And so before you start, you need a different script. You need to be telling yourself something far different. All right. So common mistakes is that you're taking this thought in the script and you're ruminating and running with it. That is a big common mistake. So instead of programming and rehearsing the outcome that you want with the communication, you're rehearsing the detrimental negative side of it. All right. Now, you can tell people that are running a script because a lot of it is self-deprecating and or a sense of false humility. And that is the perception of being humble and all these different things. This is connected to a leak. Gotta fix the leak, man. If you want to be an effective communicator, fix the leak. Now, most people focus on skills, and this is why we're going to heart level communication. We talked about desire, that's at a heart level. We talked about faith, that's at a heart level. We talked about intentionally programming your heart here today. These things that are at a heart level, because if we don't fix the inside, it's never going to change on the outside. And that is, we can focus on external stuff like tips and tricks and forms of communications and delivery, and some of these other things. And they're important. I'm not saying they're not important, but you are going to run a script. So it'd benefit you to understand the script that you're running. Let me lay it out to you this way. Let's just say that you've imagined and envisioned somebody breaking into your home. Like, I don't know who hasn't had that at some time. And you kind of ran the script in your brain of what would take place if somebody came into your home. Now, if you are armed, which I highly recommend, you've probably ran a script of, well, I would jump up and I would get the gun, grab the flashlight, and then I would run out, right? Maybe I'm dumb. I don't know. I've already kind of scripted out what would take place if somebody broke into my home. And if that event happens, that's the script or the pre-program that I'm running. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to get executed 100%, but you can guarantee that because I've ran the script, that this is probably going to be the response that you're going to get. That if you break into my home, you're probably going to get this response because it has been thought about, it has been pre-programmed, it has been imagined. That's pretty much what you can expect, right? So people do this in so many different ways. Well, if I lost that person, I would go off the deep end. And then they start imagining it and they pre-program that thing, and then, self-fulfilling prophecy. And or if, this thing happened, then I'm going to do this, right? And so we do this in so many different ways unconsciously, and we don't really know that we're setting a script and programming. So it would benefit us then to be proactive and to set the script and the program that we want for success. All right? All right, you get it. All right, so what do? We write the sentence. When you feel this, like, write it in plain language. And that is, if you feel a script that is running that you don't feel is very empowering, point it out and ask yourself, how do you feel about that? Well, when I think that thought, I feel angry, frustrated, and disempowered. Well, the script isn't working then. It benefits you to do a different script that doesn't make you feel that way and that doesn't disempower you, that actually gets the results that you're looking for. All right? There's a method to this. Is like, is this true? Is this absolutely true? And when you say this, how does it make you feel? And the last question is, who can you be without this belief? If you were to set aside and let go of this thing that is causing you pain, who could you be? And then you look at it and assess it. I guess I'm going to release it and let it go and reprogram it. All right? Amazing, amazing mind trick. All right? All right. I will see you tomorrow. Hope you have an awesome day.